Clay Township Planning Commission to order. Would you please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Roll call, please.
Deborah Addy,
Absent and excused.
Mark Bouchard,
Absent.
Christopher Daggy,
Here.
Chris Hiltunen,
Here.
Christine Holcomb,
Here.
Tom Kozel,
Here.
Robert Muesling here, Robert Jacobs,
Absent.
and Kathy Schweikart.
Absent and excused. Okay, next we have approval or amendments to the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
You have a
Support.
motion? You have a motion and a second? Roll call, please.
Deborah Addy is absent, Mark Bouchard is absent, Christopher Daggy,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb,
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Robert Jacobs is absent, and Kathy Schweikart is absent.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of May 24th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion or
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll support.
any discussion or corrections? No?
No, I don't even.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Deborah Addy is absent. Mark Bouchard is absent. Christopher Daggy.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb.
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Robert Jacobs is absent, and as well as Kathy Schweikart.
Okay, next we have new business. And it's the JPC 2023-005-3057 South Channel, site plan approval for CNCC Bar. Steve, you want to give us a? Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight, you have a request to have storage containers placed on the property of the San Sushi Bar. The property is zoned C2. They're asking for two 10 by 20, 8 by 20 permanent storage containers in the area generally shown on my drawing there, although the drawing's not to scale, mine is not to scale. There are a couple issues according to your ordinance that says that a couple of stipulations when you allow storage containers. One is that they have to be at least 3 feet from any property line, and this is indicating that. And the other states that it has to be 10 feet from a main building. However, in talking to the building inspector, Gary, who's here tonight, there is a provision evidently in the building code that allows him to waive that condition and allow it closer if they can show that it's fireproof, it meets fire safety standards. So with that, he meets the ordinance. I offer no objection.
Any questions for our planner?
Yes, the dimensions don't add up on the drawing,
I did notice that too.
and department head approval, we don't have anything on the department head approvals.
I was advised today, I called the township on the checklists you're referring to, and I was told that they don't require them for site plan approval, only for special land use approval. That's what I was told, because I figured that question was going to come up tonight.
Do you have an opinion on that, or?
Christine told me that this evening when I came in. I'm meeting with them tomorrow on procedures. We will discuss it.
And the only other suggestion, if we did decide to approve, could we possibly do the same thing we did with?
I'm sorry?
Could we possibly, if we decided to approve tonight, could we possibly do the same thing we did with Beardsley's, where we didn't have the checklist also, but we approved them with the stipulation
Yes.
that they were? Okay.
Sure.
Regardless of having it before our decision's made, in this case, would they still have to go through that procedure, wouldn't they? They'd still have to go through department head approvals on
Right.
this,
Right.
if I understand.
The police, fire, and DPW.
Everything would have to go through it anyways. just what the sequencing is. I would think they would all have to look at it.
Yeah, again, if it's the policy to only send it, or not send it on site plans, if that's within the policy, and I'm not aware if it has or isn't or not, if that's the policy, I don't think we can hold anybody up
Okay.
unless,
So just on the special use site plans.
Yes, that's what
my
I was told.
understanding is through Christine tonight.
Yeah, and I
Wonder
talked to
why they
Cindy,
make a difference, huh?
and I talked to Cindy Babish this afternoon when I noticed that, that it wasn't there. And she had told me that and said that it's only on the special approval land use and especially when there's a public hearing. So, like Steve said, I passed that information along to him today.
You're going to get clarification on that, Steve, when you meet with them, though, or at least?
Yeah, we're meeting tomorrow, just coincidentally, on all the site plan review and all the planning commission procedures so that, we can make sure everything's in order every month. Checking out the agenda, making sure that legal descriptions and legal property ID numbers, so we can verify and make sure those errors are corrected in the future. So Cindy Valentine has scheduled a meeting for tomorrow with myself and Cindy Babbage, and I believe another lady from the office named Amber, and I'm not certain Gary's going to be there.
Okay.
Or not, to go through the procedures.
And now, if the procedures are in place, I mean, are they written procedures and something that we can be given just so that, I mean, it just seems, sometimes we get the information, sometimes we don't, you know what I mean? If it was a written procedure or something, and that way we understood.
If there are, I'm not aware of it, but I can certainly check for you.
Okay,
I kind of get the things like you do a couple weeks before the meeting. I get a site plan and I review and send it in. So I don't follow all the procedures and the inner workings of the administrative office.
okay,
So I can't answer a lot of your questions, but
I understand.
we'll make sure we get answers for you.
understand, thank you.
Sure.
Gary, did you want to come up and add anything to that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just to say that the 10-foot clearance is a fire code situation, and as long as they put a fire preventative on that, then they can reduce it to 3 foot. I agree that the numbers even on the map that the site plan that we have don't add up. They're like 3 foot short if it is 55 foot wide. So that means that gate opening would have to be less than probably 9 feet instead of the 12 feet, which 9 feet as far as fire egress, still plenty big enough for that. And it might mean that they'll have to do their roof structure a little farther over the top of the containers than what they're proposing here.
Will these be on like a slab or something? Or
I'm sorry?
are they set on a slab, or are they just laying on the ground?
Yeah, these one is going to be on a slab.
Okay.
And then we'll make sure that they get anchored down. Right now, today, it's strictly site plan. Once they're actually going to move them and put them in place, then they have to come and see me for a permit to actually do it, and then we'll get all the stipulations
Electricity
involved
or
from there.
anything to it, right?
I'm sorry?
If they wanted to add electricity or anything, that would be probably at that same time, right?
Well, yeah, that's a separate
Okay.
permit too, so.
Yeah.
Okay?
Would a rat wall be required? Rodent
Well,
control?
our ordinance,
I couldn't find anything on it.
yeah, under shipping containers, it does talk about it being on footings. We don't require footings on anything less than 600 square foot as far as accessory structures, which would be light frame, which would be, made out of wood or light gauge steel. We're talking about shipping containers. So even though it's in there talking about it, if we're doing it on a concrete slab and we're bolting this thing down to the slab, I think we're in a good place.
And the gaps in the fence there, they'll be filled with fencing, I assume, right? Because they're serving alcohol, right? You can't have people walking in and out.
Correct. Yeah, there's going to be some type of fencing to fill in those 3 foot voids
Yeah,
on
right,
each side.
exactly. Okay.
Well, maybe not a planning concern. The doors are, typically on those shipping containers, are locked from the outside. Is there any provision considered so someone doesn't get locked inside one of those?
Don't know. Shipping containers in our township, we've been trying for years to regulate them and get them, under control. So I'm not sure what we can do with that.
There's just so
but that's a
many
good
people are
question.
gonna be at this facility compared to what maybe there's a storage unit sitting out in some field somewhere where this would have a lot more traffic around it, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, we could put some type of stipulation. I don't know if we could get a internal release of it, but maybe stipulate it that it's locked at all times and, you know, have some secondary identifier, even if it's a switch on the inside, if someone gets locked in, that they can flip and so someone knows that there's someone inside. I don't know. I'm just snowballing right now to see what the possibilities are. But yeah, that has not come up yet.
Access getting behind the building from the fire department point of view, have you any thought on that? With those containers there and with the river there, it does
Right.
kind of lock that up back there.
Yeah, and that's why we look at that opening between them. And, you know, a 9-foot opening, if that's what it ends up being, is a bigger opening than, you know, any other building would have. So I think as far as egress and emergency escape from that courtyard area, I think 9 foot would be ample.
About the site plan, we don't really have we just give a hand sketch on this from how certain are we of these dimensions?
Well, we're going to make sure of that. And,
Because things
you
don't
know,
add up on the drawing, you know, just even.
correct, even the drawing shows that they're 3 foot.
Because it's 100 foot across, and that, you kind of add everything up. If there's a side lot on the right of it, and that, even the, you know, dimensions, even not just on the fence to the proposed area, all of it's kind of off.
Yeah, if we don't have the 3 foot from the building, 3 foot from the side yard, and something workable in between, it's just not going to be able to happen. So if they have to cut it down or rethink it or get different storage containers,
exactly.
that's going to be what happens. But all that will be verified in field when we actually get to that point.
How's that going to impact where there are dumpsters located?
I think there are dumpsters located in the parking lot up in the
It's kind
corner.
of changing that whole area over there. Is there any provision for the dumpster and an enclosure for that at this point? Or?
It's not proposed and they haven't had it, so I don't
I don't know,
know.
now that they're making changes, I didn't know if that's gonna kick in, that they'd have to bring it up to, you know, to enclose it at this point.
Right. It wouldn't be an automatic trigger, but if that's something that you wanted to make sure happened
I'm just
along
curious
with
if-
approval to enclose the dumpster, that's well within what you could do here tonight.
Anybody else? Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
And I believe we have one of the applicants here. Would you like to come up and have anything further to provide us with?
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. What we're doing is, because of the changes we had to do to the building, to make the bathrooms ADA compliant, to do changes in the kitchen, to make it, bring it to the newer codes, we lost a lot of space inside the building, and it's gotten pretty tight. So by putting outside storage, and the containers make the most sense for us. One of the things you brought up is the dumpster. What we did is talk to the other businesses on the strip, and we are going to have a collective dumpster for everyone there, and it's going to go behind the grind. So it gets it off the main street, because having it in front of the building on the main strip was always a disaster. It was dirty, messy, smelled. So by moving it behind all the businesses, and then we're paying for one large enough for everybody to use. So it'd be one collective one. The gate, I went out and measured it, and we ended up with 58 feet from the building to the seawall. So I don't know if over time things have changed a little bit. The seawall moved back and forth, you know, but that's the number we came up with. But you know, the entranceway, we'll shrink it to whatever it needs to be. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to do something different, get a smaller container or adjust something. But it seems to make the most sense. And one of the things we're trying to accomplish too is there is an architectural arch that was inside the building that was part of the original structure that matches the arch that's on the front of the building now. We saved that, and we wanted to put it over to the dumpsters, over the opening and by the containers, to tie the both buildings together, tie it all together, and then side the containers to match the building. So it looks good, and it fits. The containers wouldn't be used for anything other than dry storage. I don't see that we'd ever put electricity into them. You know, we're use them for is, one container would be for dry goods, paper goods, things like that. The other one would be for all the returnable bottles, cans, all that. That stuff takes up a lot of space. Years ago, when you didn't have it, everything got thrown away. It wasn't an issue, but now it is. But that's pretty much where we're trying to go with this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Robert Combs, 3691 North Adams, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan.
Any questions for Mr. Coates? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, what are your thoughts, questions, discussion?
Well, so if we were to make a motion, we have to include what was it, the fire gap or whatever, material, what did you call it, Gary?
Fire retarder?
Yeah. Should
Would that be part of the
included?
planning, or would that be part of?
Or would that be part of
Just
the-
part of the building end of it?
Okay. All right. That being said, I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the applicant of property 74-14-532-0004-000 for the San Souci Bar storage containers. That makes sense?
Do you have support?
I'll support.
Any further discussion? You good, Sue?
We approve that. We don't recommend approval on that, correct?
No, we approve it.
Oh, we approve it.
That's,
It's not a recommendation.
yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't go to the board. All right, then I amend that to say approve. So,
And you still support?
And I still support.
Got it? Okay, roll call, please.
Deborah Addy is absent. Mark Bouchard is absent. Christopher Deggy,
Yes.
Chris O'Toonan,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb,
Yes.
Tom Kozel,
yes.
Robert Musling, yes. Robert Jacobs is absent, and as well as Kathy. Motion is approved.
And I don't see our approval stamp. For our site plan, we have no site plans.
So the other thing we're
I'll
working
address
on,
that tomorrow.
there were none last week either when we approved last
Yes.
time, so
Correct.
it's one of the issues we're working on tomorrow. How do we resolve all this?
Okay. Yeah, if I need to come in and sign, I'll come in and sign.
Thank you.
Well, I guess
Yeah, there's no
they can call me too.
Yeah.
I can try to swing by.
All set? Thank you very much. Good luck to you. Looking forward.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have unfinished business, and I know of none other than we do have a public hearing coming up on the 28th, I believe, on the Algonac Sand.
Yeah. Sand and gravel. The attorney will also be here.
Okay,
I met Sarah, bumped into her. She's one of the owners. And she mentioned that she'd like us, if anyone just wanted to go visit their site, it's not a problem, that she would
Perfect.
be more than happy. So I was gonna try and get over there Saturday, I think.
and next we have planning consultants report.
Nothing new to report.
Thank you, Steve. ZBA representatives report, Debbie's not here, and Gary, I don't think there's been a meeting since the last planning commission meeting? Okay, so we have nothing there. Board representatives report, and Mark is absent, so I have nothing to say on that either. Chairperson's report, Kathy is not here today. And under that, we have St. Clair County Master Plan Review and Comments.
St. Clair County has prepared a countywide master plan. It's available online. They're accepting comments, so if anybody's interested in commenting, please go online and do so.
Thank you, Steve. Planning Commission member comments?
I have a comment. Our last meeting, we approved Beardsley, subject to department head review. They were open by Saturday morning. Department head review didn't even make it through to the middle of the following week. They also mentioned they had no drive-up business. You can drive up to it and walk right in. Their floor plan really doesn't match what they had submitted, although it was pretty loose. It's really kind of a whole different, you can drive up, walk up, boat up. Site plan doesn't match. They just kind of took what we were going to do and just what we recommended and just disregarded it. And apparently, I don't know, but the rack storage, I guess, I don't know if that needs, I don't know if that falls under a special use plan or not, but that really wasn't brought up either on, because the rack storage has, the tractor that's loading things going right by that store and moving around, and right by the gas docks moving around, which potentially could be a hazard. And I didn't see any barriers or signs or warnings there either. So a whole number of things that, especially because of what they're doing, there's a lot of room for hazard because of fire. And I don't know what the status of the building permits were either, whether there was open building permits when they opened either. Because I assume there'd be open building permits.
Well, what we were discussing when they were here was for the
Just the
fuel
store.
tanks.
Fuel
Yeah,
tanks in the store.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Gary, can you help us out at all?
Well, I do know that they, and I called them after the meeting, and I asked about that. How do you get approval on a Wednesday and you're open already on the weekend? And to plan to get the storage containers takes months to make it all work, to logistically get them there, to get all that workings, get the people involved. And there were some delays in them getting before the board for one reason or another. So, they were poised and ready to go, a couple of months beforehand, before the board, but for whatever reason, it never made the agenda or got stalled in one way or another.
And you're referring to Beardsley's, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, they were poised and ready. They did get all their state approvals. All that stuff was in the works, and unfortunately, yes, I understand what you're saying. We just gave them the approval and they're already open. But this was a plan that they had in motion for months.
Well, we gave them the approval subject to, and they didn't follow up on the subject to items though, prior to
The
opening.
only subject to was departmental.
Department heads and any permits that might be. So
And
was there any permits that were open?
not
Electrical?
for that.
Not for the party store?
We still have some open permits on the building, and they're working real close.
But
on
they're
those
open,
too.
but they don't have final permits and they're open.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
common.
Temporary certificates,
That's
things that
common.
they're able to work through. So we treat that the same as any other business would, so they're no different. But that's the explanation that they told me on that day, because I asked that same question, Chris, same thing you asked me. How does that happen? And it was just, that it took, months to make this all happen, and with the delays, it just worked out that way. So unfortunate, and it probably shouldn't have gone down that way, but if they just stayed closed for another week or two, would it have been an issue at all? Probably not.
What if we would have disapproved the site plan?
Right.
Then what?
Right. No, I agree with you there. They definitely did some things and took it upon their own risk. And I would imagine if they didn't get their approvals, that, they wouldn't have opened. But with that being said, I made sure that they did get the electrical inspected. That was done locally, but all the pump and installations were all done and are all done at a state level. We have virtually nothing to do with
Is there a recourse as to, like Chris mentioned, you can actually drive up, and we were told that it was only gonna be accessible through, by pulling up to the gas stocks to get into the store?
And I'll look into that.
Okay.
You know, because I was unaware that that was possible. But, yeah, let me look into that. We'll have a little visit over there and see where we're at with everything.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Chris? No?
Nope.
Robert? You good?
Yes, just,
Good.
if you want to put it in the minutes, it'd be nice to get a phone call for special meetings.
Steve, could you possibly mention that at the meeting tomorrow? If there's a special meeting, if we could get a phone call.
Because that's, I mean, luckily I seen the second email come through and seen special meeting, and it's like, oh, I better open these now sooner than later.
Tom? You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Public comments. Anybody in the public want to make any comments? Seeing none? Adjournment.
Second.
I need a motion,
Oh,
please.
a motion to adjourn then.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.